I am an idiot. Like, I make fun of myself all the time. And I think because I spent the majority of my childhood being bullied and made fun of, and I never fit in, and I was an outsider, I think I'm really comfortable with being vulnerable and comfortable with just being who I am. And I know that, like, if people are judging me, I know I'm still going to get a beautiful image at the end of it. So even if they think I'm being weird, it's like, we're artists. We're allowed to be a little bit weird.
Ah, I love that. I love that perspective. Yeah, it's like we're allowed to be weird. It's like a permission.
When I first started my wedding photography business back in 2011, I made just $5,000 in my business. Now, I bring in multiple six figures per year while working only 30-hour weeks serving my dream couples. I'm here to help you discover that it's so possible to have what you want when you want in your business so that you can create the life you've always dreamed of and deserve.
All right, guys, so I'm here with Jennifer Moher today. By the way, how do you say your last name? I want to remember it forever.
You're saying it right. You said it right yesterday.
Yeah, I'm so happy, Jennifer Mower, because I'm like, I love the sound of your last name, and I'm like, I hope I'm actually saying it right.
Yeah.
It's just so like fluid, and it feels so like calm. I love it so much. Yeah, so I'm so excited to chat with Jen today. It was actually very spontaneous that we did this. I saw Jen post on her Instagram, which was so nice. I think it was on Instagram where you're like, if anyone needs to talk through this like hard time right now, I'm here to reach out. And I've been actually having a rough couple of weeks, just kind of like mentally and just emotionally. And I knew that I had to create a podcast for you guys, and I'm the last person to want to half-ass something. I always want to make sure that it's quality. You guys can really learn a lot from it, and it's of value to you. And I've always wanted to talk to Jen and have her on the podcast anyway, and I felt like it was kind of like a sign that you posted that. So I kind of just quickly reached out to her, voice noted her. I'm like, so I'm feeling kind of low, and I feel like I need someone to talk to on this podcast, and let's kind of collaborate and talk about all the things and just join together on this conversation. So that's how it kind of came about. So now me and Jen, literally, I think is it a day later? We're just Skyping and chatting now.
I think it's less than 24 hours later.
Yeah. So, and I love Jen's energy. She's always up for anything. And yeah, I'm so excited to just dive in and chat. And I think today what we wanted to like kind of naturally dive into is maybe talking more about personal style or just anything that revolves around that. So actually, just to start off, like Jen, I've always been so curious with your Instagram profile because it's so beautifully curated with a ton of negative space, and then you're showing like a lot of. Oh, I was just making sure I was recording. Yep, it's recording. You have a ton of like beautiful photos with like negative space, and not only like wedding related photos, but other kind of creative photos. And I always found it so fascinating that that was the presence that you chose to have on Instagram rather than, sharing even like the documentary, messy kind of photos that you love to story tell as well in weddings. So I always was so curious to ask you, was there a specific reason you chose to go that route creatively on Instagram?
Wow. Okay, that's such a good question. That's a really good starting question. It's really interesting because I think my style on Instagram has evolved a lot over the past few years. Because it was really like minimalist and there was so much negative space and it was all just like single color backgrounds and it was really limiting. And I saw that after a while and I was like, oh my God. But I think the reason why I was doing it is because my brain is so chaotic. And I think you're probably the same as me, where we have these crazy, chaotic brains that are just flowing consistently with ideas and thoughts and imagery. And for me, I started posting these images that were calm and quiet and simple. And as I started doing it over and over, and I started seeing this collection of these images, it was almost like a peaceful uh, art project for me to compile these together and start posting them over and over again. So yeah, and I tried to implement that into my work as well, just to kind of be consistent, so that people who hired me based on Instagram would then go into a wedding day with me shooting the same things. But it's impossible. You can't shoot like that at a wedding.
Yeah.
Like there's
I always found it so, like, whenever I saw those images, I'm like, how are they so clean and crisp and beautiful, right? Like it was so, and like you said, it was like a calm space. It was, yeah, to be in.
Yes. But then I got to the point where I realized it was unrealistic. And I want to make sure that I'm always setting my expectations for my clients and making sure that I'm not offering something or showcasing something that I can't then do on the wedding day. So I shifted to posting a lot more black and whites that were a little bit more gritty. I'm going to open up my Instagram now so I can actually look at my feed and talk my way through.
Yeah,
But
that's cool. I'm gonna open it up too, actually.
scroll back, you can kind of see where the change happened, where it was all minimalism. It was, one person or one object per frame. And then I just kind of broke it. And I created this rule for myself was, okay, if it's going to be a messy image, it has to be a black and white.
Okay.
And I think I just like following rules because, again, it goes back to that chaotic mindset where you need to have some sort of order for creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that actually. Yeah. And it's so funny because the images that you're talking about that maybe might be more chaotic for you, right? Like maybe there's a background with grass and that has texture and stuff like that. It's black and white, but to me, I still feel so much like open negative space and so much breathing room, and it's just like so beautiful how you're able to capture that. But I can totally see what you mean now. You've kind of taken it from being ultra minimalist to like having more humans fill the space, and then also be more couples so that couples can see, oh, that could be a photo that of us that you can create for us, right?
Absolutely. And I didn't want my account or my photos in general to just be pretty photos. I wanted them to have life, and I wanted to feel something when they looked at them. So,
And that's something that I admire about you so much, because your photos are pretty as fuck, but also have so much feeling and emotion. I'm like, oh my God, like it's incredible how you do it. I'm like awestruck with how you can get such like calm energy while still having so much movement in a way. It's like such a beautiful contrast. So I've always admired that about your work.
thank
It's
you.
insane. And actually, talking about the black and white photos, so I know that you love to blog in black and white because you feel like it's more like timeless and classic, and there's just something that was like moving you to do that, right? And I'm guessing a lot of people kind of ask you, oh, do you still shoot color? I'm guessing a lot of people ask you that, right? Because I saw that on your website. You're like, I still shoot color, guys, right? So I'm so curious as to like, okay, you know how as artists, we have to, in a way, expand and grow by experimenting, trying new things that we're drawn to that maybe don't make sense in our minds, but it can be so scary to go there if we know that maybe our income relies on it. And I know I struggle with that too. So I just found it so brave with what you did, with like being like, you know what? Right now I feel like posting more black and whites and blogging this way. So I want to know kind of your thought process behind that. Like, how did you have fears that popped up? Did you almost not go that route? And even just as I would love to hear like what kind of feedback and results did you get from just following your heart in that way?
Absolutely. So I would say it went back to the fact that I'm super inspired by movies and TV. Like that's where most of my inspiration comes from, just in terms of my compositions and my editing to an extent. And I remember as a kid watching The X-Files, and the director of that show was so great at just coming up with really quirky episodes that no one in the TV industry was doing at the time. And so he would have these episodes that were filmed differently, like on a different type of camera, or he would do some where like no one could talk for the whole episode. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer was actually the same. And that was another one of my favorite shows. The director would take risks, creative risks, and do these crazy episodes. You know, one was a musical episode where like everyone was just singing. And these are risks that other TV people were not doing, other directors were not doing, because they were afraid that they'd lose viewers or they would lose money. And I loved that these people were bold enough to take these risks. And it's what I admire about both of those shows. So there was one X-Files episode that was 100% black and white, the whole thing. And it had this vintage vibe to it. And it's the most beautiful episode that's ever been done. And there was something about it, and it's still like I have goosebumps talking about it right now, because there's something about it. Just, yeah, like it was magical. And so when it came to blogging, I had that idea where I thought, oh, I wish I could just fully blog in black and white. And anytime I have those thoughts of like, oh, I wish I could just do this, or I wish I could just do that, I always stop myself and question and say, well, why can't you do that? Like, what's stopping you from doing it? Right?
Yeah, totally.
Well, so yeah,
that's the way that, sorry to interrupt, but like that's a great question to ask, because you went into, instead of being, but I can't, it's too risky, you went into asking a quality question, like, but why can't I? And then automatically our brains are actually like, they are programmed to answer whatever questions we ask. So if we ask a question of like, I can't even think of them on the spot, but maybe why is that not possible? Then it'll create answers in your brain that could lead you to figuring out how it's possible, right? So that's amazing that you did that. Keep going. I didn't want to interrupt you.
So, and my other big thing, and you know, as an educator myself, I always teach people to stay away from the wedding script, like steer clear. Following the rules, following the script, even when it comes to blogging, like just stop and don't do what everybody else is doing, because you're never going to stand out if that's the case. So I like pushing those boundaries in that way. And that was the reason why I just thought, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to blog in black and white, because I think it looks better. And I know that there's other people out there like me, and they'll appreciate it as well. And, you know, just to make sure that I'm answering questions before the questions can even be asked of viewers on my website, I make sure that I post and say, hey, I still deliver cover photos, FYI. I just really black and white. And then I also offer a discounted wedding rate to couples who only want black and white photos. So they get $500 off their wedding package if I can just deliver the whole thing in black and white.
That's amazing. Just because maybe it obviously makes your workflow easier, and you also feel a little bit more fulfilled with like fulfilling your dreams of creating a piece all in black and white.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. And so how many couples so far have taken you up on that?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah.
I had 2.
That's awesome. That is huge. That is huge. Those are 2 couples that wanted that. That's amazing. Especially that, like, you know how, like, when something is so different, so groundbreaking, so out of the norm, it's so much less likely that a lot of people are going to go for that, right? But so let's say more people were doing what you were doing, more couples would have taken you up on that. You know how it all works, right? It's so crazy. So that's so amazing. And okay, actually, one thing that I'm so curious about is like, okay, if you were to deliver a whole wedding in black and white, I noticed that some images, like if the background isn't dark and their skin is lighter, let's say the background is light and their skin is light. I'm guessing you would just have a specific preset, I guess, from your slate and ivory presets, where it's like their skin tone would be darker than the background, because you can't have everything bright, right?
Right. So it depends on what the background is. If it's a blue sky, that's fine. And it's really achievable to still maintain that skin tone, because what I do is I just go in to, actually I could do two things. I could go into the orange slider, the color slider, and I can just increase the orange slider and turn that up. And then that actually brightens up anything that's a skin tone. So anyone's skin tones will just brighten up in that black and white photo. And I do that a lot if that's the problem. And then I would just sync it for all of the photos for whatever that. And then the other thing, like if it was a really big issue, I would go in and just correct each one with like a radial filter or something. But usually that orange slider works really well. And to be honest, and I'm totally not trying to plug my presets, but the black and whites work really well with bright backgrounds, like super strong backlit, anything like that. They actually work really well with skin tones.
Yeah,
so,
I can vouch for that because I have those presets, and I mean I'm so inspired by your black and white work that I'm like, there are just some images that just have to be black and white, right? But so I wanted to make sure I had the right tools to create the black and whites, right? But I still find like most of my work, like 95% of it is colored. That's just how it comes out. That's how it feels right to me. But there's still like 10 wedding photos from every wedding that have to be black and white. And I'm like, okay, slate and ivory presets to the rescue, because otherwise I would not be able to make them look that good. So, but yeah, it's so interesting how like, right? Like we both love documenting connection, emotion, authenticity, candidness, all of that. But we see, it's just so beautiful how like maybe I see it more in color, but you see it more in black and white. It's just so cool.
Yeah. And I always relate it back, and my brain just always switches back to movies and TV because that's just how I function. But I always think about how, movie directors, they all see things differently as well. And maybe whatever their life experiences are what make them who they are and makes them see things the way that they see things. And, if you had Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick and they both had to direct the same movie, the outcome would be so different based on both of those people for the same script, same actors, everything. And it's the same for us as wedding photographers. We could go in and shoot the exact same wedding, but we'd come out with such different images because of our life experiences and the way that we see things differently. It's so cool.
It's so true. Do you ever feel envy of the way other photographers shoot or see or edit?
I've never felt envy. You know what? No, that's not true. In the beginning, I felt envy for sure. And I think now the way that I always look at it is a curiosity. There's people whose styles are so different from mine, like Lanny and Erica at Two Man Studios. Their work is completely different from mine, but I don't envy it, but I also don't look at it and think, ugh, that's not for me. Yeah. I look at it with a curiosity and an interest of like, wow, they work so hard. They get such crazy, incredible shots. It's more of like a curiosity and a respect than anything.
I love that so much. I feel like it's funny. I personally felt like I needed to hear that because comparisonitis can be so real. And I think the way your attitude is so healthy. It's, it's really good for like your mental health even, because once you start comparing yourself and you feel like maybe your whole identity as an artist, you feel like not good enough, all these things, you can go down into a deep, dark hole. I love the word curiosity because I still compare myself, right? I'm like, oh, but like that edit looks so good, or like the way that they shot that angle, I can't believe I didn't see it that way. And I actually feel envious, and that's kind of like a negative path to go down on, but it comes in waves for me. So there are seasons in my life where I'm like, so like, I love my style exactly as it is. I don't feel jealous of anyone else's, but then there are seasons where I feel like maybe because I haven't been trying new things creatively, I feel stuck, and then I start going down that path. So I love that you said curiosity, because I already feel lighter just thinking about it that way.
That's so great.
That's so good.
I totally understand that. And I used to be the exact same way. I remember going through blogs the night before a wedding and looking at other photographers' work the night before I would go and shoot a wedding to get inspired. And the only thing that it left me feeling was not good enough, because I would go and show up and shoot these weddings and the wedding itself wouldn't look the same, and I wouldn't have the same options in front of me presented to me, right? Like the same backdrops and the same clients and whatever the case might be.
That's such a dangerous path, because like then you're setting expectations in your mind.
Yes.
And that's when we can become a little bit like resentful of like, I wish this couple had this or that. And we all become these photographers that want to have perfect couples with the most beautiful weddings, but that's in the end, that's not what it's about. So it's a dangerous path to do that. And instead now, like you arrive, I'm guessing, do you arrive without any expectations?
Yes.
Kind of blank canvas, right?
My only thought is, or my only hope is that there's people that are going to show each other love on the day. I just want to see signs of love and proof of love. And sometimes because of nerves, people don't show it as much. And those could be the ones where you're like, oh, there was no emotion at the wedding. But it's almost like a challenge to try and find it, or have compassion and empathy and understand that some people get nervous and they don't show it in the same way that, say, I do or you do, right?
Yeah. Love that. And guess what? At the end of the day, so just like you just said, I just want to be able to document love and emotion. For me, what takes away all the pressure and all the stress for me to show up and document a wedding day is like, I'm there to document the story as it is. And that's, no matter what, it'll be a success, because that's exactly what happened that day. And I've documented it, and all those memories will be memories. Whether even if something went wrong, right? Maybe in the moment it sucks, I'm going to keep shooting it, but in 10 years they'll laugh and they'll be like, I can't believe that she fainted on the wedding day. That's a story now, like, so yeah, that's such a refreshing attitude. And I really do believe we all need to adapt that as much as possible. We all need to adapt being more compassionate, I think, all around. So yeah, that's really awesome and refreshing. And what I'm wondering, because like, okay, so I'm at the place right now where I've been off shooting for most of the off season, because I was focused on building my course, because I wanted just, focus is the key to creating like a really great project, right? And I just wanted a little bit of a break. So now I'm in the place of like, oh, I just don't even have the space to be creative. And especially now with COVID-19, like quarantine, all of that, I can't even go out and do creative shoots just to like start those juices flowing, right? So I'm just curious as to, okay, so I know you're doing your like self-portrait, fun little group activity now. So we could talk about that for sure, but I also would love to know, like, if you feel stuck creatively, let's say it's even in the middle of wedding season or an off season, what do you do to like get yourself out of that rut?
Oh, it's such a good question. And it's so important, because I've been in those positions so many times in the past where yeah, I get a creative rut and I feel like I don't want to get out of bed in the morning. I feel like the last thing I want to do is sit down at my computer. Like, it's just this feeling of dread. And there's a couple things. So one is, on those days where you feel that, don't do the work. Don't sit at your computer. Like, actually just like feel that feeling and be okay with the fact that today you're not going to get any work done. You're going to lay on the couch and you're going to watch Netflix all day.
Yeah.
Just like embrace the feeling of like, ugh,
Yeah.
You're going to have another day, maybe 2 days later, where you feel like how I do today, where like I woke up and I started making an online workshop, and I've been going since like 7 a.m. and I feel so inspired. I don't even think I've eaten today because I'm so excited. But yesterday I spent most of the day on the couch. So knowing that you're going to have those rut days and you're going to have the good days, and to just actually go with that flow. But the other thing I do, I mean, when you're in the thick of wedding season and you have to go out and be creative, that's a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So, aside from doing personal projects and, right now with COVID-19, we're stuck inside. So I'm doing self-portraits just to do something every day, pick up my camera and do something creative. And have something to sit down and be excited to work on. But other than that, through wedding season, I tend to pick up new creative hobbies. So this past summer, when I was feeling any sort of creative ruts, I would pick up my ukulele. I taught myself how to play the ukulele. It's one of the easiest instruments to learn.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, just You can grab it. It's sitting like right beside me. And all you need to know is like 3 different chords, and they're so easy. It's a 4-stringed instrument. It's so simple. And you can just sit and play and feel like a musician. It's so cool.
So cool. That's an amazing life hack. Actually, I've never even thought about that. And some people just would love to like create music, but they're like, oh, but it's so complex to learn. So that's crazy.
Yeah, it's so simple. I promise you. Like order one online right now.
Oh my God, imagine we all share this on social media and then somehow Amazon's like, COVID-19, everyone wants to play the ukulele.
So easy. It's so great. So yeah, I would do that. Another thing that I started doing was I learned macrame, which is also very easy. Once you just start learning it, it's so easy. So I would make little macrame wall hangings. I taught myself embroidery this past summer just to like learn how to embroider something on a little wheel. Just like random non-photography creative outlets.
That's so cool. You know, I don't know about you. Well, obviously I know about you because you just told me you do all this, but I'm such a driven person that feels that everything I do needs to be productive, whether it's personal development. So like if I go for a walk, it's productive because it's good for my health and mental well-being and everything, right? And I don't know why I see art projects as like, yeah, but that like what's that really going to do for me? You know what I mean? So but I know that every time I do sit down to do something like that, I do feel so much more calmer. My perspective changes, all those things. So that's really cool that you do that. I'm wondering, what's your sign? Or like Gemini. Okay, I'm a Cancer.
Okay.
It's so interesting how like, or a personality type. I'm trying to think of like, do you know your what's it called, Myers-Briggs?
My Myers-Briggs is, yeah, hold on.
You're like shit. What are those letters?
Order. So sometimes I'm an E and sometimes I'm an I, just depending. I'm like an introvert extrovert. Like I need to refuel when I'm by myself. So right now, being indoors by myself is actually the best thing for me.
Yeah,
like
I feel that.
So yeah, I'm on the fence of, I think it's INFP.
Okay, so introverted, extrovert, let's say, and then intuitive, feeler, and perceiver.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm also figuring out my extroverted introvertedness, but I think I'm kind of on where you are because right now I'm so excited to just be at home for like a while. But then I'm also craving connection, so I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So, but yeah, I'm an intuitive as well, and then I'm actually a thinker, so I'm not a feeler, and then I'm a P as well, so I'm a perceiver. So we're different, I think, only in the feeling and thinking. So see how, is it so interesting because you wanted to do the projects because you wanted to maybe feel a certain way, and I'm thinking about those projects like, are those going to waste my time? Like,
whereas I'm just jumping in and doing them because I just want to feel good. And that's productive to me. Feeling good is productive.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, so you're saying that in the middle of wedding season, even if you carve out that time for yourself to just try something new, does it actually help you feel like with your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, okay, if you think of like a full week, right? So you've shot a wedding and then you have a week, where you need to be editing and doing all the computer stuff, and then you shoot another wedding on the following Saturday. So in that week in between, you have like 5 or 6 days where you can be efficient and do your work. But if you're sitting down and you're sitting at your computer and you're in that mood where you're like, oh, I don't want to edit, and you're just creeping around Facebook and you're looking at Pinterest and you're on your Instagram, like you're sitting there and you're not being efficient with your time. Whereas if you just get up, walk away from your computer, say today is going to be a free day, I'm not doing computer work. You go away, you do something different. Do your macrame, play your ukulele, watch Netflix, go for a run, do whatever you want to do. I guarantee that when you go back to your computer Tuesday morning, you're going to feel more energized and more refreshed because you gave yourself that break.
Yeah, that's very, very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, so with me, with like, I outsource my editing, my culling, I have a virtual assistant. So all I need to do every day during the week is I only need to work 4-hour days, like whether it's like reviewing edits or emailing or all that kind of other stuff. So I mean, I have the time, and I guess the way that I spend my time is just listening to more personal development podcasts or like working out and stuff. But I never actually thought about doing just other different types of creative things outside of photography, because there's so much more things we could play around with. So it's a great tip, Jen. Thank you. Yeah, I never thought about it that way.
I don't know what the original question was there. We
I
kind of
know, that's the beauty of just conversating. Conversing. Converse, is that a word? Okay, I'm trying to see what else I can. Okay, so there are some things that I'm actually wondering with like, so I feel like, you know how we all have different strengths of how we document wedding days and what we document, and we can always grow and improve, right? So this year, I'm going to have a huge focus on expanding the range of emotion I document of just the couple alone during portrait time. Because I know I document a range of emotion throughout the whole day when it happens candidly, but I know that inside of me, it's easy for me to document just the couple alone feeling happy and like energized and like doing fun things and funny things.
so
But
good at it.
yeah, I feel like I've nailed that and I feel so comfortable doing it, but I feel this weird sense of uncomfortability when it comes to getting more intimate emotions out of couples and that more subdued, like even neutral look in their faces. Where, because most of the time, if we're with our person, we're just kind of neutral face sometimes, but that doesn't mean we're not feeling anything, right? So I've always been so curious about how to even bring that out between couples. So is there any tip that you would have for me or the listeners that can get that like subdued energy out of couples in a way that's comfortable for them and for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to, I mean, for me, I think there's a couple of things, but I think the way that I speak to them, I mean, and it's such a basic concept, but just the way that you're behaving acts as a mirror for them, right? So, I mean, if you're like super high energy and you're like, yeah, guys, let's take some pictures, some fucking photos, you know, like they're going to be super high energy. And I've never had you shoot me, but I imagine that you would be very high energy when you shoot. Like I can imagine you being like this bouncy little ball of sunshine. And and I think that that's why you get these beautiful, excited, fun photos of your couples, is because you're portraying that energy yourself. But I think sometimes it's almost like you have to put on your actor cap a little bit, and you need to change the way that you are, not in a weird like, okay, and now we're going to be this way.
Yeah.
But just in a way that like calms the pace down. And even just the way that you talk, if you talk a little bit quieter and a little bit more gentle and a little slower, it tends to just change the energy. And, you know, putting little pauses in between your words and having that sweet little smile on your face as you're telling them to do things and telling them that they look so beautiful together. And, you know, it almost, you're creating this intimate space for them to feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of that.
That's awesome. You know, it's funny because I totally have done that. I've tried that, right? And it works, right? But I guess do you feel comfortable in those moments? Because I'm trying to work on me feeling comfortable and present instead of being in my head of like, I feel like I'm intruding on a intimate moment right now. And do you know what I mean? So do you feel comfortable, or do you not feel comfortable sometimes?
You know, and I think this goes back to our personality types, and maybe it's because you are the thinker and you're in your head. And I think the second that you just shut your brain off and just focus on them and don't focus on you, because I can guarantee that they're not actually focused on you. They're so worried about how they are, and they're like, oh my God, am I doing this right? They're not really thinking, she sounds so weird. Like, is she trying to that's so I think, I don't know. And I spent years, I used to shoot with a second shooter or an associate shooter, Erin Lester. And I am an idiot. Like I make fun of myself all the time. And I think because I spent the majority of my childhood being bullied and made fun of, and I never fit in, and I was an outsider, I think I'm really comfortable with being vulnerable and comfortable with just being who I am. And I know that like if people are judging me, I know I'm still going to get a beautiful image at the end of it. So even if they think I'm being weird, it's like we're artists. We're allowed to be a little bit weird.
Ah, I love that. I love that perspective. Yeah, it's like we're allowed to be weird. It's like a permission.
I totally get it. You're trying to get noticed and you don't know how. I mean, raise your hand if wondering where your next booking will come from keeps you up at night. I know how that feels like. I was there once too. But I'm about to help you get clear on how to increase your bookings and inquiries. After coaching many portrait and wedding photographers, I realized they all had one thing in common that was holding them back from booking their dream clients. They didn't know how to market themselves. Once they got clarity on how to show up and put what they learned from me into action, they began to book more of their dream clients. And now I'm excited to help you do the same. So I've created a mini course called Crystal Clear Marketing to, you guessed it, help you get crystal clear on how to attract and book your dream clients. I mean, the year I implemented this, my revenue grew from $69,000 to $137,000 in just 1 year. So if I can do it, you can do it too. So in case you're wondering, inside of the Crystal Clear Marketing mini course, I share how to optimize your website so that more of your dream clients inquire and book, how to go from being a generalist to becoming a specialist, and why it matters, how to find out who you are at your core and fuse it fearlessly into your business. Also, how to show up on IG so you attract quality followers. That's so important. How to make the money you deserve while feeling fulfilled with your work, and how to make marketing effortless and fun, because it should be. Running our business should be fun. So what I'm so excited to share with you is that I've made this very affordable. So to get all the deets and enroll in this mini course, go to sarahmonica.com/crystal clear. Again, head over to sarahmonica.com/crystal clear. I cannot wait to see you in there.
Oh man. So actually, that's so interesting that you said you were bullied, because I felt like I was bullied. I was bullied too when I was younger. It's so interesting that you took it to a place where you actually feel more comfortable being yourself. Because a lot of people that are bullied actually kind of, crawl into a little ball and are even more scared to be themselves. So what was like the catalyst to have you actually feel more comfortable and just own who you really are, even after going through that?
I think there were a few sort of pivotal moments. So most of elementary school was hell. It was awful. And I got teased and made fun of. And, I was always the last to be chosen for all the sports. And there were times where I was forced to eat muddy potato chips just in order to hang out with girls at recess, and just like really mean, awful things. And so I ended up going to a different high school from everybody else that I went to elementary school with. And I switched, and it was an arts high school. And I think that like going into that situation and finding your people was really a great thing for me, being around the people who were into drama and art and things like that. And I wasn't even into photography at the time. I was more into drama and, TV and movies. I was this nerd kid, but everybody else at my school was as well. So finding your people was a really important thing for me, and really pivotal, but also, going through high school and looking at that social ladder, because I did make friends with all the cool artistic people, but then I got into the trap of like, no, I need to be popular. I need to be the popular girl. And I saw this social ladder and I saw how you could climb it. And I saw how easy it was to be a certain way and how that would bring you higher on this ladder. And so I climbed it and I learned how to do that. And I learned what people expect of you and how to be in order for people to accept you. And it was all fake. and it was all shallow. And I think coming out of that, I realized that for most of my high school career, I was being fake and I wasn't being myself because I was trying to fit in. So I think through all of that, when I came out the other end of it all, I felt the most comfortable when I was just being myself. Even if I wasn't being accepted, it felt better.
That is, wow, that really struck a chord in me. That was the most beautiful, like, explanation of like your journey and put in like the most like shortest way possible because you went through a lot, right? But wow, the one similarity that we had is that we both started fresh with high school because I had the same situation where I was like, I'm gonna go into high school fresh, no one knows me, and I kind of built up this new persona of who I was. And I was also experimenting being myself, which I felt the most like I could be myself. Like you had like your drama friends and all of that. I had my sports. And then when it came to like, well, everyone kind of teased me for being Miss Perfect elementary school. I'm like, fine, I'll smoke weed, I'll be a rebel, I'll do stupid shit, right? So it's interesting how we kind of both navigated the let's be ourselves and then let's also try to fit in. And in the end, at the end of the day, we both realized it's just easier to just more effortless to just be you. And I love how you said, actually, I just found my people, my tribe. Because I think it's so important to have that in our adult lives because having those people around us being like still feeling loved as being who we truly are authentically lets us feel, gives us in a way more permission to shine into the outside world like that in the same way. That's really cool that you said that. And I know a lot of photographers are struggling with like, how do I show up online? Like there's so many photographers that always ask me, how do you show up so authentically on your Instagram stories and all this kind of stuff and no makeup and you just say whatever you want to say. I want to be more that way and it just breaks my heart. And honestly, I do it so that more people have the permission to do that.
Yeah.
Like so actually on that note, like, do you have any advice for anyone that feels like they're trapped with like feeling like they can't let out who they really are? Because that's a painful place to be.
It is painful. And I think before you can let it out, I think you have to learn who you actually are. Like I think you need to figure yourself out before you can then share it with the world. And I think being introspective and even, how we were talking about what Myers-Briggs personality type are you? Like going through that process and understanding who you are. I took like a solid year of doing stuff like that and just really trying to introspectively understand who I was. And there's still certain things that I don't feel comfortable doing online. Like I still, on my Instagram stories, I can't post videos of myself talking. I feel so awkward. But there's other ways that I can get my personality across. And, you don't, just because one person does it one way doesn't mean that's the way to do it. I think there's many different ways to get it out. But what I found really helpful was doing this self-portrait project 7 years ago or however many years ago that it was now, because I found it embarrassing to like look at photos of myself. And that was my first step in embracing who I was and accepting myself, was accepting physically who I was. And then learning, the personality types, understanding what my flaws are and what people would find difficult about me, and understanding why I have those and how I can, adapt and not upset people or not, just all of the ways that you can understand yourself within relationships, friendships, just within yourself.
And for those of for everyone that's listening that don't know what your project was, your self-portrait project, you want to expand on that? Because maybe people that are listening are like, "Ooh, I want to hear more about that," because maybe I can try it for myself.
Absolutely. So 7 years ago or 8 years ago, around there, I went through a divorce, and I had two young kids at the time. They were 5 and they were 2. And I moved into this small little rental house by myself with them half time. And it was a very depressing time in my life. Things felt grim, and they felt very similar to how they feel right now. The energy felt very bleak. And I felt like I couldn't create. I felt like I didn't want to create anything. I didn't want to pick up my camera. And whenever I feel those moments, that I think those are the moments that we need to the most, that we need to be doing something to create and to feel something. And that was all I wanted at the time. So I started with one photo. I just took a photo of myself, and just because I thought, oh, I'm just going to document me right now. And then it turned into me taking a photo of myself every single day for 6 months. And it's great because it acts as this visual sort of diary of this really crucial, important time in my life. And it taught me so much about lighting and composition and how to use my camera and focusing and emotion and editing. Like, it taught me all of the things that you want to learn in photography, but it taught me about myself. So that's why I reintroduced it a few days ago, because I think people might need this right now, to keep their minds busy and active, and to create art in a time of confusion.
That's amazing. When you feel like that it's like the least amount of energy that you have to want to pick up the camera, it's probably when you need it the most. You just like hit me straight in the heart, because I'm in the group and I'm like, yeah, like sounds nice, but like I don't know, I'm feeling too lazy to do that, and like just low energy, right? And like, shit, I think Jen's right. I think I need to just explore that a little, right?
Yeah,
That's beautiful. And I know that you noticed, I mean, sorry, I know that you shared in the group like that quick slideshow from that project. I think it was, would you say 8 years ago?
yeah.
So if the listeners want, Jen, is it okay if I link it in the show notes? They can see it and get inspired.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So if you guys want to check it out, it's going to be in the show notes at sarahmonica.com/22. And you can get inspired there. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Man, it's beautiful to hear from you that you're just open with like hard times, because we all have them. We all experience them. Life is impossible without them. And you share that with like the community, and you help lift everyone up along the way instead of just keeping it to yourself. So it's amazing, because it's so interesting, because it's like an introverted project, right? Because that's the introvert extrovert in you. It's an introverted project, but you're like, but I want to bring people along with me, right? So it's like that's
part of it.
yeah.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
that's so cool. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we can talk about. This has been an amazing chat. Oh my gosh. Is there anything else that you have on your heart that you feel like talking about, or you feel like sharing? I always like to ask that.
I think like in the forefront of my brain right now, like for other photographers, is this project. Like, I think it's just creating and finding the beauty in things that might not feel beautiful, and just creating and being kind to yourself, like not worrying if you're not being productive or not being efficient with your time, like literally just taking a day or a week to just lay on your couch and watch beautiful movies. Do that to feel something inspiring. I don't think putting pressure on yourself is going to help in this situation.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I feel like as a whole right now in the world, we're being kind of forced to slow down, because we've all been moving too fast and putting too much pressure on ourselves. And I feel kind of in a way relief. Like, of course, there's a lot of like stuff that's painful that's happening right now, but there's always pros and cons to any situation. And I feel relieved in a way to just be stuck at home, slow down, really like count all the blessings, like be grateful for everything. Because if I think about it right now, even like I'm just like, I have everything I need in my life right now. I have people that I love, I have my health, and what more do I need? It's kind of crazy how beautiful it is to slow down and notice that. Yeah.
Because I've been seeing posts lately about the earth is healing itself right now, because there's less pollution, and there's parts of the world now that are actually healing. The earth is healing. And I think we as humans need to be doing the same and slowing down, and maybe staying away from social media a little bit and picking up books or ukuleles and doing things that feel good without the distraction of social media.
Yeah, that's so true. And do you believe in numerology at all? You do? Okay, so have you heard that this year, collectively as a whole, it's the year of the four, and the year of the four means building foundations for our lives moving forward. So isn't that crazy how kind of aligned it is?
That's
Because if we don't have our health and well-being, it's like, what do we have, right? So it's kind of like us building back that, starting that foundation, and it's the beginning of a new decade. It's kind of crazy.
yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's, I mean, as sad as things are and as scary as, some people might find it, I think it is a good time right now to just reevaluate your life and yourself and just get yourself healthy and happy again.
Yeah,
And slow down.
yeah. Oh man, thank you so much for the chat. I'm so grateful for you. My soul feels like so filled up again. It's just been so great to connect. Anytime I connect with you in any way, I always feel just re-energized. So thank you so much. And I'm sure that people listening to the episode are probably like feeling re-energized, re-inspired now. So yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
And oh yeah, and of course, I want to make sure everyone knows where to find you. That is a must.
Right. so, so yeah, Instagram is it's all one word. It's my name, Jennifer Moher. The website is jennifermoher.com. Those are probably the best places. If you want to friend me, you can as well. I like friends on Facebook, so I'll be your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best places for sure.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you so much, Jen, and hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
You too.
Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sarah Monica Photo. That's Sarah no H, Monica with a K, photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.